So my name is Jamie Ross, and I'm the mayor of the village of Belcarra, and I wish to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples. Tumtumay Waiton, or Belcarra, is home to an ancestral village of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. We're thankful to conduct our work within their territory. I'll call to order the meeting at 7:04 p.m. And I'll look for the approval of the agenda, moved by
So
Councillor
moved.
Clark. Thank you very much. Welcome. And seconded by Councillor
Snell.
Snell. Thank you very much. And that the agenda for the regular council meeting, June 6, 2022 be approved as circulated. Any discussion from councillors? Not seeing any, please raise your hand and say aye. Thank you very much. And
Aye.
I note that it carries in the affirmative, the ayes carry it. So the adoption of the minutes, regular council meeting, May 24th, 2022, moved by Councillor Drake and Snell, seconding. That the minutes from the regular council meeting held May 24th, 2022 be adopted. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I have a question.
Okay, that counts. Go ahead.
Regarding item 4.1, we were expecting a visit by Benita Zarillo at the last meeting. I just wondered if we'd had an explanation or an apology as to why she did not show up.
No, at this point, we haven't had an explanation, Councillor Snell. So we're not sure why. And so when we do get something, we will convey that to council.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
good. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye, and I note that it carries in the affirmative. Okay, thank you very much. And delegations and presentations, we don't have any, so we have the reports, and I'm going to ask Ken if he could please go ahead and outline the report under 5.1. Ken, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to share my screen for ease of reviewing the report. Share screen. Are we right with that?
Yes. Yes, we can
Ken,
see it.
appreciate that.
Okay. So this is the annual Statement of Financial Information report that is produced pursuant to the Financial Information Act and the corresponding financial information regulation. And according to the legislation, we have to provide for 8 statements, and including an approval and management report. So the statements that are enclosed are the Statement of Financial Information Approval, the management report, a schedule of guarantee and indemnity agreements, a schedule of remuneration and expenses, a statement of severance agreements, a schedule of payment to persons or entities, and a statement of inactive corporations, and then the financial statements. So I will go over these statements briefly. And at the end, we will entertain any questions that council or members of the public may have. This report, by the way, gets filed with the ministry and is viewable by those that want it. So the first statement is a statement of financial approval, which gets signed off by the acting chief administrative officer and the mayor. The second statement is a management report that gets signed off by the acting chief administrative officer. This occurs, of course, after council approves the SOFI report. This third statement is a schedule of guarantee and indemnity agreements. And the Village of Belcarre has not given any of those out in 2021. The next statement is the schedule of remuneration and expenses, and it shows the remuneration paid to council members and expenses, and the remuneration and expenses paid to staff in a grouping of those that are over 75,000 and a group that is under the 75,000. The ones that are over the 75,000 are listed individually according to the legislation. So as you can see here, the total remuneration to staff and elected officials in 2021 was $710,668. And this includes taxable benefits, and also includes expenses such as travel expenses, memberships, tuition, vehicle reimbursements, registration fees paid directly to the employees or a third party on behalf of the elected official or employee. The next statement is a statement of severance agreements, and there was one severance agreement representing 1 week of pay that was paid out in 2021. The next statement is the schedule of payments to persons or entities. And in this listing, we are required to list payments to suppliers that are over 25,000 individually, and then a total for all those suppliers under 25,000. And on those also an amount that was paid out as grants and contributions. So the total that was paid out in terms of payments to persons or entities in 2021 was $2,547,482. Oh. The next statement is that related to a statement of inactive corporations, and the Village of Belcarre does not have any inactive corporations, and thus that statement just states so. And finally, what's required is a copy of the financial statements. And so the financial statements, which council has seen previously, are attached to the Sophie report as well. So if we go back to the beginning of the report, there's 2 motions for council's consideration.
Okay, so Ken, at this point, thank you for that, and I'll return and we'll get a counselor to move it and a counselor to second it, so it's on the floor. Moved by Counselor
I'll move it.
Drake.
Second.
And it's second by Counselor Clark. Thank you very much. And Counselor Clark, you have your hand up. Would you like to go ahead, please?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me, Mayor Ross? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Did you want-
Okay. Sorry, I'm having some problems with my internet today. Yeah, I just have one question. Through the chair to Ken, on the list of expenses and salaries for council, there's an expense of $393 for each councilor member. I never gave an expense sheet to the village, so I'm wondering where those 393 are accounted from. Thank you.
Okay, and through the chair to Ken, if you would go ahead, please.
I'm just going to pull that out. Hopefully. So those are various memberships that were provided to the council members. Just trying to find a list here.
Your Worship, I can help Ken if I happen to have it handy.
Okay, I'm just, can't put my hands on the list right now.
Memberships are, Ken is correct. It is the membership in the Lower Mainland Local Government Association, UBCM, FCM. There's one fee that's paid by the municipality, and then it's divided up among the council members and charged to you as an expense. In addition to that, there is similarly a fee for membership in Recycling Council of BC. And finally, an amount representing membership in the Tri-Cities Chamber of Commerce, of which all members of council were charged an equal amount to their expense account.
Thank you very much. That answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Clark. Appreciate that. And thank you for the answer from Dennis and from Ken working together. Thank you, Dennis. All right. So with council, any questions right now? Okay, we can go out to the audience, and if there's any questions there, we can take them. And remember, and I want to thank everybody. When we're in this part here, one question per audience member, and that has been very helpful in contributing to early finishes to meetings for everybody, council, staff, and members of the audience. So anybody would like to ask a question on this? Not seeing anyone, I'll return to council. And council, any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we've got two motions that we can vote on. Anyone on council with a question? Not seeing, I'll look to call the question on, and there's two recommendations there. All right. All in favor? Raise your hand and say aye. And
Aye.
I note that it carries and in the affirmative. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Ken, on that. And then Dennis, I'm going to ask you if you could outline the next report, and welcome Richard White. Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
In a letter dated May 3rd, the chair of Metro provided Belcarra with a copy of their draft 2050 regional growth strategy. The bylaw that accompanies that is bylaw number 1339, was given first and second reading by the regional board on March 25th, and a public hearing followed on April 20th. The bylaw, the regional growth strategy bylaw, is now being referred to affected local governments for consideration, and member municipalities have 60 days following receipt to accept or refuse to accept. So they have 60 days to either accept it, or if they refuse it, then to include reasons. And the bylaw will be back before the regional board on July 29th for third reading and adoption. The Metro Vancouver's Regional Growth Strategy 2050 is really an update to their Metro Vancouver 2040, and it was called Shaping Our Future. And this has been under review and discussion for the past 3 years. Metro 2050 is the region's vision for how to manage growth that is anticipated to come to the region, putting growth in the right places, protecting important lands such as agricultural, conservation, recreational lands, and industrial lands. It's also intended to support improved mobility, support a provision of affordable housing, and the provision of urban infrastructure such as transit and utilities. And the plan also addresses climate change and natural hazards. With us this evening, and Your Worship, you've already introduced him, Richard White, who is a professional planner and a planning consultant that's working for Belcarra, is our subject area specialist who actually wrote the report. Thank you, Ken, or sorry, Richard, and is here to answer questions.
Welcome, Richard. And I see we have first from council, and at this point, let's, why don't we get the question on the floor? Councillor Clark, did you want to move it?
Yeah, I will choose to move option 2. Because we're receiving free information, but we had two options here. So option 2,
Yep.
that the draft RGS is a significant document and there might be aspects of the plan important to council members that staff have not addressed. A referral back to staff to elaborate on specific aspects of the plan will allow this work to be done with a report back to council. I'd like to move that.
Okay, thank you. So we've got the option number 2 being moved, and is there a seconder?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Councillor Drake, seconding, so it's appropriately on the floor for discussion.
Thank you.
And option 2 is, Councillor Clark just read that, so let's
Yes.
do, Councillor Clark, do you want to open on that? And then Councillor Drake, I see you have your hand up too.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. So two things here that worries me. Well, first, thank you for the report, Ken, and now I'm confused, Dennis and Richard. So thank you very much. This is very helpful. Well, I'll ask the first question, I guess. How does that relate to the review of the OCP that we're undertaking right now? Because the last open house that the draft was presented to the community, there was something about 5 to 8 units per acre here that's being talked about. How does that relate to us? Because if we're having those conversations at the OCP and this is happening at the same time here on the region, I would like some clarity to how to move on from here. Thank you.
Okay, through the chair to Richard White, please.
So thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Clark. The situation here is that the region has a variety of responsibilities itself. For instance, in this case, and I mentioned it, reference it in the report, the provision of sanitary sewer system for municipalities. Most parts of the region are served. Some municipalities are partially served, and a few are not served at all. And that will be a bit of an issue when it comes to determining, the size of lots that the OCP might want to put in place. There's a variety of solutions. Metro is looking at it from their perspective, which is the provision of a bulk service. There's a variety of sewage treatment facilities in the region, and that they are suggesting that they're not in a big hurry to serve areas that aren't already served. They've got a plan to serve the areas that are served. And it's also that service area designation. And I reference in the report the Anmore situation, where there was a sewage treatment facility outside of there's a non-regional service that was provided to a townhouse project. It failed. It took them, and for all I know, it's not quite solved yet, but there are alternatives that any municipality can consider. And that happened in Anmore. The service eventually failed. The solution in that case was to extend the service area. I think the region doesn't want to make a practice of that. And this is the point that the OCP committee will have to contend with, is how to provide for maybe a reduced size of lot as a general rule in the OCP compared to what's now in existence, and whether that will involve a change to the, I guess what the sequence of events would be that the municipality might run into a situation where they couldn't provide the adequate services necessary to provide for smaller lots because of the sewage treatment systems. It's actually a provincial regulation through public health that governs that. And so the typical solution historically has been an expansion of the sewage treatment areas that the Metro provides. It would be tricky in Belcarra because the pipe would have to run a long way to get into Belcarra from where it presently extends to, which is probably the edge of Port Moody. Anmore doesn't have sewage treatment services either. So it'll be tough. And what they're suggesting, I think, in this document is that don't look forward to their support for that. We can, what I've tried to do is give you the report in a short form, but what you're asking for is perhaps a more detailed look at that. And that's probably been looked at in the past as well. We'll look into that if you pass this motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, no, and I know that it's still conversations on the committee, right? But yeah, but that's what I was wondering. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Thank you, Richard White and Councillor Drake. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, first, Richard, my compliments on the summary. It's a remarkable piece of work, how few pages you've dealt with. I wanted to deal with or get some further feedback from you on matters you bring up on the final page of this, which throughout reading it, I was uncomfortable about what it would have to say with respect to our interest in seeing a road up to the Fair Cove area, passing through parts of Port Moody and obviously all of it within the regional park. So I noted, one, that you indicate that Parks, as I read it, isn't specifically asked to deal with that or reflect that in its mandate. If I understand that correctly, they don't have a formal responsibility to respond to everything that's in the plan. But on the other hand, my understanding of Parks is they have quite a narrow focus. Could you respond to that question first?
Well, I was glad to have the assignment of looking into this because I never figured that out either. And the situation seems to be that Metro Parks has not responded to the implications of the connectivity of the region when the connectivity requires a road through a metro conservation or park area. And that's, I think, as Councillor Clark already alluded to, there's some things that the OCP committee is presently dealing with. I'm connected to that process as well. And this is one of them, where the Belcarra North feels they should be connected to Belcarra proper, the southern area, the first municipality. And to do that, you basically have to go both through Metro Parks land and Port Moody to connect the two parts. And that's been a abiding problem. And this, I think the RGS won't necessarily make it easier for that to happen in the future. It's not easy now. I don't think there's anything being done in the draft plan that will make it easier in the future.
If I might follow up through the chair.
Yes, go ahead with the follow-up and then we'll move on to Councillor Snell. Thank you very much, Councillor Drake.
Thank you very much. So then as I read this, Richard, it's a little unclear whether Parks themselves would have the authority to support, and I'm not holding my breath, but to support a road. But certainly you're saying that it also would have to be approved by the board, and that, I assume, would respect this document. Is that correct? They would be expected to follow their own recommendations, I take it.
Well, if I may, through the chair, I
Yes,
think
go ahead.
it's not clear. The road that exists to Belcarra Bay Park now is through a regional park, and I didn't look into that and how it happened. My guess that was some sort of an arrangement that we don't want really. Belcarra didn't really want every park user to go through the municipality, the sort of the main part of the municipality to get to the park, and so an effort was made by Metro Parks to provide an alternative solution which would allow park access without driving through the park. Through the municipality, the non-park part of Belcarra. So to me, it doesn't seem impossible to allow for that to happen in another way for Belcarra North. But that wasn't really my mandate to figure that out. It's certainly something we've talked about. The manager and myself have talked about how we deal with this problem. It's an issue that's referenced in the existing OCP about connecting the two parts of Belcarra, and it hasn't been realized in the life of the last plan, or the current plan, I should say. So it's a work towards, and what I was trying to be sensitive to is that there's no real door opening as a result of the draft plan to provide for that in the future. I don't think it's impossible. It's happened in the past. I think it should happen in the future for any number of reasons that are more sensitive now than they were before. The access to fight fires, the access to emergency services, those sorts of things are being frustrated by a lack of willingness on the part of Metro Parks to provide for an access route. And by the way, Metro Parks is not a separate entity. It's fully part of the board of directors' discretion.
So just to add to Richard's response, clearly any decision to allow for the construction of a road through the park would be something that would be ultimately dealt with by the Metro board and becomes a decision of the board members. And, you know, the focus here is, but what will the parks people within Metro be recommending? Either way, it will ultimately be a decision of the board.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll go to Councillor Snell.
Yes, thank you through the chair. That's an excellent report, and it certainly makes good reading. And I also would go with option number 2. In reading through the report, I went through and picked out a lot of lines that sort of jumped out at me. It's almost as if they were written to jump out. And this would be the efforts to manage growth and change through the region. Areas where there has been another one, probably a main one, a little specific reference to the village of Belcarra, focusing on the more rapidly growing metro lands. Again, little specific consideration for the village or its current OCP. Metro RGS goals make it difficult for much change to occur, and so on and so forth. And I then, which made me decide, okay, option 2 is the way to go. And before I move on to the next point, I'm just going to add something that probably a lot of our audience don't realize, is that twice a year, the councillors all go to a council of council meetings with probably 130, 140 councillors present, and they're all raising issues pertinent to their own communities. And at the end of the meeting, I was chatting with other councillors, and we said, "Oh my goodness, I'm so glad we live in Belcarra, and we're not in the middle of all that hubbub and all these little all these communities that are getting bigger, taller, higher, wider, deeper, noisier, and seeing little areas that used to be a bedroom community to Vancouver now suddenly turned into their own city." So it really just reinforced just how different we are and why we like it here and how we should stay here, which moves me to my last point, which I will then shut up. In the letter from Metro Vancouver, as our acting CEO pointed out, we received it on May the 3rd, which is now a month ago. And we are required to, if we indicate that we're not comfortable, then we have a short period of time to state why we object, the reasons, and whether it's that a provision which it objects to be included in the regional growth strategy. So given that we're going back to the drawing board in favor of option 2, how would you see moving forward in accomplishing that? Thank you.
Through the chair to Richard, thank you.
Maybe the CAO might want to speak first, but I'd be happy to add
offer some comments, and then Richard will follow. The way I understand it is, if we meet the stated timelines, we need to have something back on the council agenda on June 20th. And the question then is, would that give Richard enough time to delve into what additional research and whatever additional information council is interested in? And I think too, in referring it back for further work, I think it would be helpful if council can be somewhat specific as to what it is that you'd like to see explored further.
Thanks, Dennis.
So, Your Worship, if I may
Yes,
carry on.
go ahead, please.
The Councillor Clark started this discussion by referencing the ongoing work of the OCP committee. And
Yes.
I think that obviously the committee's work will lead eventually to a new OCP, or not, but likely to a new OCP. That won't happen in the 60-day timeframe that we're more or less halfway through. So we can't really accommodate their direction. But one of the things that occurs to me that we might be able to do is to say, hey, hey, Belcarra's got some issues here, and these are they, and list them in a short list. Maybe there's 2 or 3 things, and that council could pass along and accept and say, we accept this work. We recognize the RGS is a big document of a general nature, but we want to pursue these 2 or 3 topics in the meantime. And as CAO Beck just referenced, it'd be great to know what those 2 or 3 things were, and then we can work on that.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Clark, go ahead for a second time, and then Councillor Drake for a second time. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor
Thank you.
Ross. I would definitely say one of the most important things, at least for myself, is to secure the connection Belcarra North and South. So the Roach Fair Cove would definitely be one that I would want to look more into if there's any opportunities there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Drake.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, the same point. And I certainly agree with Richard's proposal. I think what we want to have is something in writing from the village that indicates that there are there's only the one issue as far as I'm concerned, and that is that our acceptance of the plan not at some point mean we are incapable of advancing the connection of Belcarra North to Belcarra South. So it's really just the one item, just as has been already stated. Okay.
Okay. And so Richard, that gives you some direction from council at this point.
That's I think that's they might even be expecting it, Your Worship. I think that's a good approach.
Okay, great. And then let's at this point, we'll go out to see anybody from the audience that would like to make a contribution. So we have Joe Elworthy and then Ian Devlin. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Joe Elworthy here, Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, I mean, it's the how and the why we're going to get there, and what is to use option 2 and respond, and what would be the 1 or 2 or perhaps 3 issues. Clear in the document, 2 issues that do separate us and make us rather different are, in fact, because of our RNC designation or CNR, however they put it. And the issue of the road too far is obviously one that's a thorny issue for a lot of people, and the OCP that's come up there. But I think not to mention the issue of the sewage, which is the one that does come around about and perhaps could apply to particularly the affordability issue of housing and lot size and required. I think not to reference that the topography of Belcarra. I mean, I know there's no talk of a sewer system coming in that I'm aware of, so I think that's elaborate. But I think just for the whole concept, not to mention the sewage issue, to me might be seen as an opportunity missed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe. And then we'll go to Ian Devlin, and then we'll go to Rob Beck. Ian, go ahead, please.
You're muted, Ian.
Okay, speaking as the chairman of the OCP committee, I'd like to bring to the council's attention information that we've recently come upon, that for the liquid waste disposal requirements, the provincial government has issued a guide to rural subdivision approvals. That was done in February of 2021. And that requires any subdivision or any rural property owners wanting to subdivide smaller than 2 hectares. So 2 hectares is 4.94 acres of property. They have to get regulatory review and approval of their subdivision from both the Fraser Health Authorities, that would be the perk test and everything, and also from the provincial government to be allowed to subdivide the properties itself. So that takes away any of the issues that we're going to deal with regarding half acre or less. So that's basically the policy that we see before us right now. So just drawing that to your attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ian. And then Rob Begg and then Cy Rogers, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
My question, I'm very surprised that nobody has brought this up, and that is the question of water and the amount of water that we're actually receiving. My understanding is, sorry, I was out of the country, but the report came back from the engineers, and apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, we can only receive what we're now getting from North Vancouver. Is that correct? Is that the maximum? I don't know who could answer that question, but that was my understanding.
I believe Councillor Drake has raised his hand and would like to answer that question.
Yeah, thank you to the worship. Yeah, thank you, Rob. Yes, that's the way I would interpret the information we've received, and it's now, we've made it public. Basically, that North Vancouver, given their cautionary approach, which our engineers consider quite reasonable, has said, no, they're not comfortable providing any more flow. And our engineers had advised that it would be very costly, I mean, far beyond cost of increasing our storage, for us to try to help them increase their capacity. I think that's a fair summary.
Thank you. My question in reading through the Metro 2050 plan is they've made it very clear that there is going to be no increase in any kind of utility infrastructure. That means that effectively till 2050, we're not going to see any increase in water. I'm really disappointed that somebody on council hasn't addressed the issue up to this point when that's the statements that have been made. I would have thought that Metro and this council would have been more concerned with life and property damage. I would expect, hopefully, that there would be a notation, and that would be the number one item that should be looked at over sewage, over connecting Belcura North and South, because it is a major issue and it won't be a problem until it is a problem. But to sit back, not mention, and know that Metro has no intention whatsoever of increasing their infrastructure is, I believe, would be remiss. Anyway, that's my other comments on the sewage, et cetera, I think is disappointing, but I think it's expected for 300 properties. I don't see anybody putting in a sewage line.
Okay.
But I believe water is very, very important.
Okay, thank you
you.
very much. Thank you, Rob. And I'm going to go now to Cy Rogers, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Welcome.
I'm very, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to hear everybody speaking about Farrow Cove and the possibility of trying to push the road through, and you know, I'm listening to the difficulties that keep coming up, you know, in Parks and Port Moody. And as you probably heard, you know, the Farrow Cove committee that got disbanded continued on as best we could. And we have made some great strides. And as you know, Mayor and Council know, Port Moody Council has pushed the project ahead to a point where they have suggested that they're prepared to look at an MOU with Belcara. So that's a very big hurdle. And we also had a meeting with Metro Van Parks, all the top guys at Metro Van Parks. Now they spoke at length at how difficult it would be But at the end of the meeting, they made it extremely clear that they were very happy with the YMCA proposal that was put before Parks, where Parks received all of the waterfront. So they left us with the impression that if they could work a deal on what they wanted, they would support the road. So, and I only bring that up because that's probably not public information yet. We haven't had a chance yet to meet with council to explain, some of these meetings that we've been to and how far we've got ahead. But I hope that you take that information that I gave you, as small as it is, as a positive step to see that it is definitely worthwhile to keep pressing and very definitely not sign off on the Metro's package yet, at least until that the Fair Cove Road issue is broached. And for that, I thank you for discussing it tonight.
Thank you very much, Sai. So I'm looking at members of the audience and I'm not seeing any further members of the audience indicating, so we will now return to council. So council, it's with the addition of those comments, it's in your hands and looking to see if we can craft some direction. Councillor Drake.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the point that Rob Biggs has raised is a very good one. The probability that we can, in fact, get water in is probably very limited at the moment, but who knows what the future holds. And so, yeah, I think we should also comment on that. Given our limited firefighting capacity in the village, it's rather a novel and unique case. Having said that, I don't hold forth any great hope that it's going to be feasible financially to get the water in here. But who knows? If Anmore South goes ahead, that will bring it that much closer to us. Thank you. So I guess I'm going to suggest that we include that along with the connection, the road connection to Fair Cove.
Okay, so those are, let me canvass with anyone additionally on council. We've got those two. Any member of council want to add or other? Just so we can give some direction to Richard White, please. Councillor Clark, go ahead.
Just a comment. Yeah, I agree with Bruce. We should put that there too. I don't know if it will get us anywhere, but at least it flags. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Could have been you, Rob, here making the motion, but.
Okay, Councillor Snell, are you good with those two items for direction to Richard White?
Yes, I am. I mean, I think we're all in one accord. Option 2 is the way to go, and we'll get our guidance as appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, and Lisa, you're there too?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got option 2 with the likelihood of water and the connection to Fair Cove Road. So we'll look to, and we've got number 2 on the table with those two pieces. So we'll look to, it's been moved and it's understood now, those two pieces, correct? With council, Richard, does that give you a direction to take forward and come back, or?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship.
Yep, that's good for you. Okay, so Paul, can you read the motion that's on the floor right now, just so there's clarity? And we can take a sec if we need to.
Okay, so that the draft RGS is a significant document and there may be aspects of the plan important to council members that staff have not addressed. A referral back to staff to elaborate on specific aspects of the plan will allow this work to be done with a report back to council. On 2 items, the likelihood of water or increased water and the connection to Fair Cove, Belcarra North to Belcarra South.
Okay, so that's, thank you very much. So that's on the table right now. Council, Councillor Drake, go ahead, please.
If I might, just the last wording on that, the reference to water is for to ensure adequate firefighting capacity.
Okay. And with council, it's on the floor right now. There's unanimous consent from council to add Bruce's. I'm hearing that from people, so we'll move forward on that. Okay, so it's on the table. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, good. And it carries, the ayes carry it. Okay, Richard, thank you. We'll see you later. And then Sartaj, if you could outline the next report for us. Welcome, Sartaj. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. This next report is regarding the remedial action requirement that was imposed on Lot A, Twin Island. The purpose of the report is to present to council the findings of the site inspection conducted on May 31st, 2022. The remedial action requirement was imposed on the owners of the property Lot A, Section 31, Township 39, New Westminster District Plan, EPP 93027, PID 031-121-101, requiring the owners of the property are to remove the modified tent and shelter by May 30th, 2022. At the time of the inspection, it was clear that the site had gone through extensive cleaning of debris and materials on site that had previously attributed to the unsightliness of the property. The modified tent and shelter have been taken down, and in their place was tarps covering building materials that the owners intend to use when constructing their new home. The storage of these materials is not easily visible from the water and have been neatly stored at the rear of the property. The owners are aware that under the Village of Belcarra zoning bylaws, the main purpose of the property cannot be to store building materials. However, the owners have been in consistent contact with the building department with intentions to apply for a building permit soon. During my visit, there were surveyors on site preparing a topographic survey, which is required for building permit. Any previous rubbish viewed, such as tires, styrofoam, charred wood, have been removed from the property completely. And attached are a few images from my site visit that day.
Okay, you're referring to those? Can we show those? There we go. Great.
Yeah. From the images there, you can see there was a lot of debris on the shore from before, like a boat full of garbage and other building materials that were not suitable for constructing a new home that had just been stored on the site. And yeah, going further down, all the wood from the deck that was able to be removed of charred wood was all removed because before it was just dropping down onto the shore there. I want to be clear here that that is not wood on the ground. That is stone that is intended to be put on the outside of the home. And there's just wood behind that they intend to use for temporary scaffolding when constructing the home, and some countertops, some old granite slabs they'll be reusing. And again, more pictures of the stone. Yeah, and as we pulled up before, when I went to view the property, it was clear that it was a mess there. There was stuff everywhere. And when I pulled in this time, it was very clear from the water that it had a dramatic undergoing of cleaning and removal. And it very much looks like a different site now when I went out.
Good. Appreciate you putting these pictures together, Sartaj. They're helpful for council, and Paula, thank you for helping to show them, just so people have some idea of what Sartaj said when he went out there, or what he saw when he went out there.
From this image, there was all in front of this is where the boat used to be in this image
Right.
here. And in front of there was all the tires and styrofoam, and those are all gone from the property. They're nowhere to be seen now.
Okay,
And I also should make it clear that the boat hull is still on the property. It was hauled to the top using ropes, but it's not visible at all from the water. The boat hull that was overturned,
right.
it's now at the top of the property somewhere back where it's not visible from the water at all.
Okay,
Oh, and that's it.
okay, good. If you want, thank you for both of you for helping with that. And so we have, I understand, Sartaj, we've got the motion in front of us. Is that the remedial action requirement for site inspection Lot A Twin Island report dated June 6, 2022 be received for information, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get a counselor to move that.
So
and a coun-
moved.
Clark, moving.
So moved.
Counselor
Second.
Wilder, seconding. Okay, so it's on the floor for discussion. Go ahead, council. Any members of council? Counselor Clark? Please.
Just, thank you. I just want to thank staff for a great job here. So I know it's a difficult situation, so thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Clark. Counselor Wilder, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank not only staff, but the homeowners, the owners of the property for being diligent in following through with our recommendations. So during a very difficult fall and winter months and the timeline that they had. So I really appreciate the efforts that they went through. Secondly, my last question is, you mentioned that the old hull has been moved up high, even though it's out of sight. Is it out of mind? Is it a hazard to the property at all? That's my only concern. Thank you very much.
Through Counselor Wilder to Sartaj, please.
I wouldn't say that it's a hazard to the property. No, they intend to keep it there. They want to recycle it in some way, and so they moved it out of the way so it's not in the sight for the other neighbors that ride by there. So,
Okay, thank you, Counselor Wilder. Anybody else on council with a question? Not seeing any. We will go out to the audience. Anyone in the audience with a question? Not seeing anyone, will return to council, and the motion to receive is appropriately on the table. So is there any further discussion from council? Not seeing any, I'll look to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
And I know that
Aye.
it carries and in the affirmative and the ayes carry it. Okay. Sartaj, thank you for your work on that, and thank you for going out and giving us such a thorough report, but also a good picture of what happened.
thank you.
And then if we go to item 5.4, and Dennis Back is going to outline this report, please.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
This report, I'll just, sorry, Your Worship, let me just grab this. It starts with a recommendation that staff pursue a local authority variation to the province that would authorize Belcarra to impose a mandatory sprinkler requirement for all new construction and major renovations, perhaps above a specific level. I would start, Your Worship, by saying that what's underlying this report and what gives rise to it in the first place is Belcarra is maybe not so unique, but it's definitely a rural or semi-rural community that's surrounded by forest. Again, we have firefighting capacity, but it isn't the same firefighting capacity as you might see in some larger cities. And there is that ever present threat of forest fires. and particularly with, as we all been told, the climate change and global warming and what we saw last summer with the heat dome. So this actually goes back to an initiative that was, I believe, started by Councillor Drake. I stand to be corrected, but he certainly has raised this at the time we were talking about our fees and charges bylaw, because he wanted to provide an inducement for people to hook up to the domestic water system for purposes of fire sprinkling, if that, and to facilitate that through our fees and charges bylaw. The BA Blackwell is a company that does studies around fire smart in communities. They've prepared a community resiliency plan for Belcarro in 2021. They're doing more work for us this year under a contract that was awarded just recently. Part of which is to help us designate development permit areas where the exterior design and materials of a house are regulated. Again, all to do with proximity to the forest and our risk of fire. So what this report is recommending, and it really is not my initiative. I'm really responding to an earlier request from council to look into this further and bring something forwards, which I've done. But currently, fire sprinkling is mandatory under the building code for commercial buildings. It is not mandatory for residential buildings. And so in order, if we want to consider this, the provincial government has something they call, you could put an application forward to the province for a local authority variation. So if we put the application forward, and again, subject to convincing the province of the wisdom of proceeding that manner, we could establish a requirement that would be unique to Belcarro. So what this report is proposing, if council does still wish to pursue that, if you pass this motion, it gives staff the authority to initiate an application. I would report back to council on whatever costs may be associated with that in order to obtain some external resources to help put the application together. And if that was approved, then we would proceed. So this would only be like, I would see this as the authority to start down the road towards an application and report back once we knew more about exactly what was involved, including the costs. But one thing that I have learned, even since putting this report together, Your Worship, is I've had a call from the province, from the Safety Standards Branch, Building Code, and saying our role in putting an application together would not be to develop new technical standards. Rather, it would be to take the provincial standards that exist and determine locally how we would see these applied in Belcarro. So that's a little bit of a different understanding than what we had initially. So as much as I use the word a very rigorous process in my report, I believe it still is, but I don't think it would be quite as onerous as what we may have been given to believe at first. So with that, Your Worship, I'll stop and I'll answer any questions I can. But again, understanding that this is really just an authorization to do further work and start an application, but to report back once we know a little bit more about exactly what's entailed.
Okay, thank you very much. So we've got a motion on the floor with 3 parts. Can we get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Drake and seconded by Councillor Clark. Okay, it's on the floor for discussion. Councillor Drake, would you like to go ahead, please? Muted.
Bruce, you mute it. You
Bruce?
mute it.
We're missing.
And I was so eloquent. Okay, yeah, thank you, Dennis, for the summary and the report. Just a quick question with respect to the feedback you recently had from the province. Are you taking it from that comment that they may be willing to offer an opinion as to given our circumstance, as to whether or not they could apply things in a different fashion? I jump at the possibility that might be a little less complex than we earlier believed.
My response would be, I was given to understand as well. I've got notes here from my May 31st telephone discussion that we would be looking at the technical standards that are in the code and deciding how we would like to apply those in Belcarra, as opposed to we're not trying to create the standards. So that changes the complexity of the work significantly.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Drake. Any other councillors with a question? Okay, seeing none at this point, let's go out to the audience, see if anybody in the audience has a question. Ian Devlin, go ahead, please. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. I seem to recall that during our discussions with this particular fire sprinkling initiative, that the interim measure that was going to be taken was to have a letter prepared by council to provide with building permit applications to just inform them about the sort of volumes of water that would be available for firefighting, and to encourage them to install sprinkler systems. I just wonder what the status of that letter is. Thank you.
Your worship, can I just ask, do we still have Sartaj with us or not? He may have left because his report is finished.
Sartaj, why don't you check? He's still.
I think he would have responded if.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, it's a delayed response, but good response.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, he's with us.
Sartaj, maybe you can answer. And I know that you're relatively new too, and I'm even newer, but the question is, council at one point had indicated they'd like to see a letter to go out to all applicants for new home construction, particularly, I guess, pointing out the limited capacity of our water system and encouraging them to put in sprinklers. Can you confirm whether that's something we're currently doing?
No, we're not currently doing that.
Okay, but you might be able to tell us that, because you and I were speaking recently, that over the last 10 years, there have been approximately 11 new houses constructed.
Yes.
Or applications applied for at least. And the high majority, 9 out of 11, I think you told me, have actually opted for the installation of sprinklers. They're proceeding with sprinkling of their homes. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's a little bit of background for not only council, but anyway, anyone in the audience as well.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Councillor Drake, did you want to add something before we go?
Yes, yeah, I appreciate it. The point that Ian Devlin has raised is correct. We did this. I can't recall whether we had a motion to this effect, but I certainly will follow up after this. We're finished with this item with a motion, because I think it makes eminent sense. That was when we had concluded that pursuing the opportunity to have mandatory sprinklers was likely impractical, simply given the cost and a track record of no municipalities having received that discretion in recent years. So, and the cost associated with seeking it. But we're now asking to revisit that. But I still think it, as a matter of course, it would be wise to give new property builders the advice, the owners, the advice that that they might want to seriously consider sprinkling given our limited firefighting capacity. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Councillor Drake. What happened was in the conversations with the minister and with staff, there was what was considered an initial lack of being able to assist us. Then it changed that there may be some assistance. We'll see what that turns out to be when we get the further information. So I've got in this order, I've got Jim Chisholm, and then I have Brian Hirsch. Jim, go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think with Dennis, with regards to your discussions with him, I don't think there'll be a request for changing the standards, because for the residential, we either got 13D or 13R, and that's just virtually standard for all houses, I understand. So it's pretty simple as to what code portions we have to handle.
You're right.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Jim, Brian, please go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you. It's probably just a side issue, but I would imagine that the sprinkler system is primarily to fight off any fires from within a building. And I would think if our primary concern seems to be the threat of a fire from a forest, that does the existing legislation that's considered also includes sprinklers for the roof? Because I would imagine that's where the risk will be primarily from a forest fire, is threatening the roof rather than from inside the building. So I'm just curious to understand from those who are familiar with firefighting equipment whether that's relevant or not.
So Bruce, you've got your hand up. Do you want to see if Stuart, I believe Stuart may be looking, Stuart, are you looking to comment on this?
Sure, I can comment on it. It's not within the building code for exterior firefighting for interface. However, it is definitely in the FireSmart best practices, and they're very effective, and they'll probably be considered in our DPA recommendations from Blackwell.
Okay, Bruce, did you want to make comment, and then we'll go back, check out anybody else?
Yeah, thank you. Only that the benefit of from the point of view of the consideration we had given before was that sprinkling a building might prevent it being the cause of a larger fire if the home is adjacent to trees, which of course a lot of our homes are, one. And secondly, that we have to be cautious about putting external sprinklers on homes, because if a number of people trigger those as they leave the village, there won't be any water left for anything else.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, we'll Jim, you've spoken before, so we're limiting the comments to one. So we'll now return to council, please. And council,
Okay.
let's go forward, and it's in front of you now. So let's decide what we want to do with this, please. Councillor Snell, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. There's no question that the motives are sound, but two items jump out at me in the report here, that the province is currently working on a tiered approach in regard to fire sprinkling, with increasingly more stringent fire sprinkler requirements, etc., etc. This work is in progress. I'm just wondering why we wouldn't wait until the province has finished developing their approach before moving ahead with this. And I would also concern that if in fact the village does intend to pursue something, there's going to be some external support, which I read as cost, if be required to meet the application criteria. So, you know, there are costs involved, there's staff time involved, there's a lot involved, and we might just find that then when the province is finished doing its work in progress, that it has been addressed. We can't be unique in our concern. So you know, as I say, I think the motives are great, but yep. I would be more comfortable tabling the issue for the moment and waiting till we've got the full report from the province on their thoughts on it and maybe contribute our feelings to their process. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. Why don't we get someone that hasn't spoken to it to move a motion to table or defer? Because I think you picked up the wording that if it was for a short period of time, it may actually mesh well with the work done by the province. So do we have a counselor that would like to move that?
I would move that.
Okay, so I'm not seeing any other speakers, so we'll return to Councillor Snell. So do you want to just repeat your motion?
Yes, I would. Okay, I would move that we would table the item 5.4 and await the results of the province's work in progress on that issue.
Okay, and
I'll
I'll look to see.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Councillor Clark. Good. It's on the table appropriately for discussion. Councillor, who'd like to lead off? Councillor Snell, you've made some good comments. Did you want to make some more, or did you want to?
I don't think so. We have a lot of things happening in this village right now with the OCP and with the issues we were talking about earlier. And I think we're going to be stretching the resources of staff considerably for the next little while. And as I say, whilst the province is working in parallel to looking at some of the same issues, I don't think we're not losing anything by tabling the motion for now. And as I say, we might be saving some money and some effort. So I've nothing really further to add to that.
Okay, good. And I'll go to Councillor Drake and then Councillor Wilder.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't have a major problem with tabling A and B. On the other hand, C, which is simply making provision for those who wish to hook up a sprinkler they've already installed when they are not already on the domestic water system, the village, and not have to pay for consumption that they're not doing. I'd like that one to move ahead. So I guess I would be proposing an amendment to Councillor Snell's suggestion that it refer to A and B, but not to C.
No, I'm comfortable putting all three in the same basket.
Yeah, so
tabling all three and then seeing what comes forward, and then we'll probably have a clearer path forward as to which way to go. And as has been pointed out, that of the 11 new construction that went on in the village, 9 of them actually went ahead on their own and put sprinklers in. So we're probably talking about just a handful of residents who want to go that route. And again, it ends up having to be a cost benefit to the village to pursue anything that's going to consume their money and their time. So
okay,
no, I would table the whole thing.
okay. So right now, Councillor Drake, you've spoken, but if you want to look to deal with that, move an amendment or move that it be done seriatim, right? Then you need to get back on and do it. But right now I have Councillor Wilder on the list, please. Councillor Wilder, do you want to go ahead, please?
Yes, thank you. I think this is a difficult one because we all want this to go forward. Sorry, I don't have a problem with tabling it. However, when you're dealing with a province that's a work in progress, a whip, you never know how long that's going to take, right? That could be a month, 6, 2 years. You just never know. From the province is reassuring.
Okay.
B myself, but I'd like to see C go forward.
You'd like to see the motion as it stands. Okay, so we'll now.
No,
go-
I
Oh,
think
sorry.
I think Councillor Lisa, she said she would
No.
like to see C going forward.
So.
I would like to see C, like A and B tabled, and then C moved forward. In
Okay,
conjunction
so-
with Councillor
so-
Drake then.
Okay,
Because
so,
I
so
just-
if
the
you just, okay, can we just hold for a second?
You don't know how long a problem.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, but can we hold for a second? The piece is, you want to support Counselor Drake, and now Counselor Drake is going to come on and move to amend the motion, I believe. And then I believe you're going to second it, Counselor Wilder, correct?
That-
Okay, so Counselor Drake?
That's where I'm standing right at the moment. Yeah.
No,
thank
that's
you very
fine,
much.
but okay, Counselor Drake.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I appreciate the management of what can be a confusing process. Yeah, I will propose that we amend Councillor Snell's motion, I say to include A and B, but to exclude C. Yes, and I believe Councillor Wilder is prepared to second that proposed amendment.
So your motion is to include A and B and to exclude C. And by doing that, it would remain on the table. Is that what you're looking to do?
Yes,
You
that's
want C
correct.
to,
That's
right?
correct. I want to see C advance, but I'm quite prepared to see A and B tabled.
Okay. Okay, so your amendment is to table and exclude C, correct?
That is correct.
Counselor Wilder?
I'll second that motion, that
Okay,
amended motion. Motion or amended?
I believe it's an amendment.
Thank you. It's
Okay.
11:20 PM here. It's late.
Oh, right, you're in a different zone. Okay, so it's on the table. Speakers to that on council? Okay, so we'll look to go to the public, see if there's anything there. Not seeing anything, we'll return to council. So the effect would be that if this carries, that the motion is then A and B are tabled and C remains. Correct?
So your worship, can I weigh in on that a little bit?
Yep, go
I
ahead.
would just, from a procedural point of view, I think that you want to first vote on the amending motion. And if it carries, then Councillor Snell's motion is still up for a vote as amended.
Yeah,
And then you'll deal separately with item C.
okay, so Councillor Drake's motion was to table A and B.
It's to amend Councillor Snell's motion, basically to eliminate recommendation C, which leaves the motion on the table, which leaves the motion to table A and B.
Councillor Drake, what did you move?
I move that we remove C from Councillor Snell's motion.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so it wasn't. So you wanted to exclude C.
That's a fair summary of what I wanted. I went on to offer other comments, but they're not motions.
Okay. You talked about the tabling. Okay, so Dennis, does that meet what you think should occur?
You've got an amending motion on the floor, your worship, that needs to be voted on.
Yeah. Okay, you want to read what it is in your mind?
It's moved by Councillor Drake, second by Councillor Wilder, that the foregoing motion, which is the motion from Councillor Snell, be amended to eliminate recommendation C.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 1, 2, 3. And opposed, Counselor Snell?
I'm still in favor of tabling all three.
Okay, so you're opposed on this one. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it carries to exclude the C, correct? And then what remains on the table is a motion to table. Okay?
Table
Any,
A. Mhm.
any further discussion on the motion to table? All those in favor? Okay,
Aye.
Just a clarity, table
Yes.
A and B.
table A and B, yes,
Correct.
yep.
Thank you.
Okay, and the motion carries.
Thank you.
And then, your worship, the first motion that was on the floor was moved by Councillor Drake, second by Councillor Clark, which was the recommendations. We've now tabled A and B, so now it's up to council's open to vote on the motion that stands to approve recommendation C as appears on the agenda.
Okay. So, any speakers on
You
that?
need a motion?
No, we've already got a motion on the floor.
Okay.
No, so the motion right now is we can move on C,
Recommendation
correct? Do you
Correct.
want to read it?
That staff bring forward an amendment to the fees and charges bylaw to establish a rate for residents to connect to the municipal water system for fire sprinkling only.
Okay, Counselor Drake?
Oops. I think that was an oopsie.
Yes, no, I agree that is the next, that's what remains of the original motion. Yes, I am in agreement.
Okay. Any other counselors want to speak on that? Okay. Counselor Clark, you raised your hand. Are you thinking?
Yeah, now I'm super confused. So now we're dealing with C again, just C.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so it's a yay or nay for C. Okay. Okay, so I voted wrong last time. All right. Yeah, I just a quick comment. I know I'd be initially supportive of this, but I understand what Councillor Snell is coming from. I think, with so much going on right now, I just want to finish what we have in hand. So I won't be able to support this tonight. Thank you.
Okay, that's not a problem. What's on the table right now? So, any other speakers on, Counselor Drake, you want to go, and then I'm going to add my name to the list.
Okay, thank you. Now, I appreciate the cautionary approach. And I think it's appropriate with respect to sprinklers, given the fact that we have been quite successful in seeing sprinklers introduced in many homes, and I suspect there will be significant costs in consulting and in staff time to advance A and B. And yes, the province is in a constant state of promising to finish this review process. I don't hold my breath over that, but I appreciate that is a possibility. However, with respect to C, I simply want to say it is not, in my opinion, a significant staff requirement. I believe it's a relatively straightforward process. I think the incidents will be absolutely minimal. And I personally think we should have resolved this about a year ago, but I'd be quite happy to see it done within the next 3 months. I just don't think there's a huge time investment required to do this safely and appropriately. Thank you.
So, thank you, Counselor Drake. So, I actually think that my concern is twofold. When I read that in terms of the province is working on developing a tiered approach, I thought that was a useful proposition, because in the end, when I read through this report the first time, there's a lot of work being done by staff, like going forward after tonight. So to wait and to delay, I thought made sense. But the piece for me, and I've raised this from the beginning, I've raised it with Councillor Drake, is what I want to know is on this one, so I won't be supporting C tonight, is I want to know how we can ensure that there's no ability for things to go back if it goes into the house structure, we have a whole system that we're responsible for. So I know there are some technical pieces, but I want assurance that for this village, by approving this, which I understand we don't have an application waiting, but I would like to see to come back what it means to make sure that we're safeguarded. And if we get to that point, then I would look to support that. So, but right now I won't be. Okay, thank you. Joe, we're in the middle of a vote, so we're not going to go to the audience. But what we will do is Councillor Drake, let me just check the order. Councillor Clark. Okay. Councillor Drake and then Councillor Clark. And then we're probably ready to vote.
Vote.
Yeah. So Councillor Drake, did you?
Yes, thank you. The means, I mean, we've been around this process about 5 times now. I agree, you're flagging an issue of safety for the system, and we have discussed it before. And obviously a report that deals with the fees to be charged is subordinate to ensuring that we are ensuring safety for water users in the community. I'm desperately trying to find something in the wording here under C that addresses it. Unfortunately, there is nothing in that wording. And so I can understand why this is likely about to fail. What we're going to have to do is come back then with a request, as I will after this, that staff give us a report on the issues of safety related to such systems. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Drake. I appreciate that. Councillor Clark, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Yes, and I think, thank you, Mayor Ross, for your comments. That's exactly the same reason why I feel uncomfortable approving this now. It's not clear on my head, the risks involved in this. So I won't be able to support it tonight for the same reasons you said, Mayor Ross. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. And seeing no further speakers, we will look to call the question on C, which is remaining. So all those in favor?
Can you read the motion again, please?
Yep.
I can read it, Your Worship, if you'd like.
Yep, go ahead.
That council requests staff to bring forward an amendment to the fees and charges bylaw to establish a rate for residents to connect to the municipal water system for fire sprinkling only.
Okay, so thank you. Councillor Snell, that gets it for you. Councillor
Can I make a quick comment on that? So this is really just on the fees and charges bylaw. This is completely separate from the investigation of the tabling of A and B earlier. Is that correct? So we're just talking about the fees and charges should the event come about that people can connect sprinklers without connecting to the city water. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Then I'm okay with that.
Okay, so all those in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, and those opposed. Okay, and so it carries. Thank you. Okay, thanks very much. And we're on to reports from the mayor and then from project lead. So 6.1. So Paul, I think you've got something to put up, do you? So I have three items on my mayor's report. The Hike for Hospice run on Sunday, May 29th. It's one of the pleasures of being mayor. I was able to join a number of people from the community to participate in this event. And I would certainly say that we were joined by a number of people from Belcarra, and it has been my experience that people talk about the work done by the hospice and what it means for people in our community and the broader community. And I think it was a nice chance to join those people. And you'll see the breadth and depths of those people in that report. Number of people from the chamber and different leaders, and it was, I was pleasantly surprised by, it was just, I got there early and it was chock block full of people, and people talk with you about some of the stories, and they're certainly touching. So it was nice to be able to do that on behalf of people in our village. The second item is I went with Lunch with Leaders, the Chamber of Commerce event. June is National Indigenous Peoples History Month, and they had guest speaker Ed Hall, the Chief of Coquitlam First Nation. And that happened on Thursday, June 2nd, 2022. And it was interesting. It was their first back to open meetings. And it was at the Vancouver Golf Club, and it was absolutely filled with people. You could barely get into the event. And Chief Hall Ed Hall did a very good job of talking about some historical pieces, and also talking about the work that he's doing with Port Coquitlam and other areas. And he is, it was a very interesting session, and it was very helpful to hear the back and forth. And it was interesting to hear many of the business people and him talk about the calls he gets to hire Indigenous people and the work that they've done. He talked about the work that he's done in his community. And then the last one I just want to talk about, I was invited by our MLA Rick Blumack today to connect and go for lunch and talk. And so I had a chance to talk with him and talk with him about some things that we're looking at, and look forward to us as a council, when we come to some decisions, being able to reach out to him and maybe get some support. So that concludes my report. And any questions, I'd be pleased to take them. And if not, I've got, seeing no questions, I have Councillor Drake. From the last council meeting, you have a notice of motion, correct? Item 6.2.
I do. Thank you, Your Worship. And that is the recommendation that I noted last week, that staff be requested to organize a council workshop open to the public on the water system to inform council of the operation and ongoing work to improve the system.
Okay, so let's get a. Oh, so you're giving a notice of motion. Are we voting on that tonight?
No, I'm making the motion now.
Yes. Sorry. Are you making a notice of motion, or are we voting on that?
No, I'm sorry. I must have been confusing. No, I had made a notice of motion at the last meeting.
Okay.
I am now making the motion that council has in front of me.
Okay, good. So we'll get just to get it on the table for discussion. Councillor, you're moving it, Councillor Drake, and a seconder.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wilder. So it's on the floor for discussion. Councillor Drake, did you want to open on this, or?
Well, I simply to say that that we've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years wrestling with the question of our water supply, particularly our water supply with respect to firefighting. And I do believe that there are a number of people that do have questions within the village, and I do appreciate staff has done a lot of work after a very slow start, has done a lot of work that I think does augment our capacity. And I just think it would be worthwhile for council to be brought fully up to speed on that. And for any members of the public that are interested to participate as well.
Okay, good. Thank you, Councillor Wilder. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Councillor Drake, for putting this forward. The only comment I have is under the proposal, under item number 2, I would like just a slight amendment if possible, where it says like any new policy should ensure the following outcomes. Number 2, that all correspondence be included on council agenda under information items, unless it is considered.
I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Councillor Wilder, if I could interject, I think you're just one item ahead right now. If
I
you
am?
look, yes.
Are we not under discussion?
No, we're under 6.2. You're.
Yes. Oh, shoot. My
Well,
apologies.
you don't need to apologize,
The
but
heck? Where did 6.2?
so I guess.
Oh, you know what? 6.2 is not, I don't have a paper report on 6.2.
Okay, so let me just question, you just seconded. Are you still comfortable seconding, knowing what's on the table?
Yes, the workshop. I
Okay.
apologize.
No, that's good. So
You know
we're
why?
all in-
Because there's not a piece of paper here. I was looking at my 6.3. I apologize.
That's
Yes,
okay.
I am
You're
absolutely comfortable 1000% for a workshop.
okay, good. All right.
Thank you.
Any other members of council? Councillor Snell, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do not support the recommendation. For the last number of years, we've been reading technical briefs by engineers. We've seen articles in the Barnacle on the subject. We have engineers' reports. Here we go again, piling more work on council to put something together, which was likely to have a very sparse attendance. I mean, our OCP meeting the other evening only started with 4 members of the public. I think you know, speaking personally, I know everything I need to know about the water system. As far as anything else is concerned, the water system is not a matter of opinion. It's based on fact, and fact is something that one can put down on paper, put on our website very easily. There's a good article written by a former mayor regarding the history of Belcarra and the water system. It would be very, very easy to add on to that with all the numbers, facts and figures, where we're going, where we've been, so that the villagers can read it at their leisure and understand just as much or as little as they want. So I would not be supporting this motion. Again, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And anybody else on council with a comment on that? Okay, let's go to the, or Lisa, did you want to comment?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
You know, everybody has different ideas or ways of learning, of receiving information. Some people can read a piece of paper, read a report. Other people are much better at visual or verbal information. And I'm kind of one of those people too. So I would, that's a kind of a workshop I would like to see. I'm not a water expert by any means. I can't, you know, I've tried my best over the last 3 years of trying to learn about it. But if I had somebody that could like visually put me through it, talk me through it, I think it's a lot easier for me than reading a report. Reading a report doesn't always sit right. So that's why I'm in favor of workshops.
Okay, thank you very much.
you.
So let's just canvass anybody else on council that has not spoken or would like to speak right now. Seeing no one, I'm going to go to the audience and I have Jim or Sherry Chisholm.
Oh.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
Chisholm.
Welcome.
It seems to me there's a lot of probably misinformation and confusion about the water system in this community. And I certainly agree with Lisa. I think a meeting that we could get together and people could ask their silly housewife questions would help considerably. I think even some of the councillor members in comments regarding like the sprinkler system and the separation of our potable water and what would happen with sprinklers and possibly some feedback and that stuff. I think they need to understand how that works so that there is no problem at all. So I think even the village and the councillors would all gain from attending this kind of a public meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay, take a look, see if anybody else in the audience wants to speak on this. I'm not seeing anybody, so we're going to return to council. Councillor Clark, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Russ. If we do this, will this be recorded and posted on the website?
Would our acting CAO on that, please?
Oh, you muted, Dennis.
Dennis,
You're muted.
you need, we're missing your best words.
I probably sound better with it on mute. And just to be clear, are you asking, would the workshop itself be recorded? Or are you just talking about notice of the workshop?
The noted, the workshop itself.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, quite honestly, I don't know what our practice has been in the past, because in the short time I've been here, I don't recall actually our having a workshop, but I can either turn to Paula and ask her for past practice, or I could say this: if it was council's desire to record it and post it, we could do that, regardless of past practice.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if you record, but also I take Councillor Snell's point, and to that, we could have a section on the website too that gives you some clarity about the water system. That would be something that I would like to see in the future. But yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Yeah. So I will make a comment. I think it's a very good idea. I think anything that engages council, that is open to the public, allows people to come. I don't think there's any silly questions. I think the questions are all good. People engage in different ways. They learn in different ways, but I think it's a very, very positive. And I know when I talked to Bruce about it, I was very supportive. And I think the piece about open to the public is critical. And I think the piece about making sure there's recording is a positive thing. So I think anytime you engage the public, it's a good piece. So anyways, we are, okay. We've returned from the audience and someone's added their name. So we're now back with the council, and council will vote on this. Okay. So any further discussion by council members? We've got a motion on the table. Anybody need it read again? No. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand and say aye. And I know it's 1, 2, 3. Okay, and opposed? Okay, so it carries in the affirmative. Thank you. All right, we have Councillor Drake.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. This 6.3, so Lisa, you had begun to respond to this one a few minutes ago.
My apologies for jumping in. I didn't have that other piece of paper.
No problem. I think the report summarizes my motives in this case and what I'm proposing. The key issues I think that I want to ensure is that anybody who writes or any document that gets to our CAO that's directed to council, that we commit ourselves that it will always get to council, and that if something is not published in the public meeting, and I think that some cases documents ought not to be published, that the individual who submitted them should have the right to appeal that. And basically, The rest of it, I think, simply is common sense and practice that we already follow. But I believe those sorts of practices should be documented so people can raise questions and can understand the process. Thank you.
Okay, so let's, at this point, we've got a motion to be moved. So Councillor Drake, you're moving it, correct? Yes?
I'll move the motion.
Yep, a second.
Second.
Councillor Wilder, thank you. So it's on the floor and appropriately for discussion. Okay. I see two speakers. Councillor Wilder, did you want to speak? And then Councillor Clark, or?
Yep.
Okay.
If that's
go ahead.
okay.
Yep, go ahead, please.
I'll just lower my hand
Thank
there
you.
before I forget and become part of that club. The only addition that I would like to have to this is if you go into the proposal for the new policy, where it says any new policy should ensure the following outcomes. In paragraph 2, I might like to see a small amendment or revision, if anyone agrees or not, where at the end it says that all correspondence be included on the council agenda under information items, unless it is considered inappropriate according to a set of exceptions identified and explained in the policy, comma, subject to receipt by agenda deadline guidelines. Because we do have agenda guidelines, right? Or agenda deadline guidelines. We already have those. And so maybe somebody doesn't understand that if they don't have their material in by a certain time prior to when the agenda is set, they don't understand why their correspondence isn't included. So I would like that clarified. I think if we're going to do something like this, I think we might as well make it a little bit clearer, in my opinion. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Okay, now did you want to look to amend that, or did you want to just ask if staff would bring that back? Because I understand staff will go away.
I think if we can just have this for the council discussion at the moment, if they all like that, then I will amend it. Or should I amend it first?
Well,
Dennis back is.
You have two
Try to stand up.
possibilities. Let's listen to Dennis because I think he may help.
Your worship, this is just instructions to staff to bring forward a policy. I've heard council, and we'll include that in the cover report and the policy, or both. But I think we'll just take that as instruction. I don't think we need any more motions.
Yeah, okay. I'm in agreement with you. Lisa, you're in agreement too?
I am.
We'll go.
As long as it's really clear, because I want it clear to our residents, you know, what everything is and how we have deadlines too. Our staff has deadlines. And just because we come to council on Monday, in fact, they send an email on Sunday, why isn't it included? Why isn't it including on Friday or Thursday? So I want it really clear to our residents that there are deadlines for us and our staff as well.
I see you just got the smile and the thumbs up from Dennis, so we're good with that. Councillor Clark, you had your hand up. Did you want to comment? Thank you, Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Yes, this is something I like to see coming forward. So for the sake of clarity for the community and as well as ourselves, council members, to know exactly what will make it and what will not make it to the agenda. So I think this lays out a process that it's fair across the board. And when people have questions, you can just refer them back to the policy. So I will be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Okay, good. So no further speakers from councillors, so we're going to go out to the audience. Jim Chisholm or Sherry Chisholm?
Oh, hi there. It's Sherry Chisholm.
Okay.
I believe that if you want a letter included, you certainly have to sign it, which makes sense, and be reasonably polite. But I think you have to have it in on a Tuesday, as the following Monday would be the meeting. So that's about a week before the meeting. You have to have your letter in by. I think it used to be Thursday, but now I believe it's Tuesday. So that gives the village a week to include it in the package for the meeting. Is that right?
We'll go to Paula Richardson, please. I think you'll be able to answer with,
Yes, so through the chair,
Yes.
anything that's going on the agenda that includes reports, because we have to edit and get all the reports ready, look up all the bylaws, there's a lot of information that you have to check on reports and correspondence. Everything has to be in by Tuesday because we switched our day for the agenda to be posted online to Thursday. Used to be Friday. So now that we've moved it back a day, we have to move everything back to Tuesday.
Okay.
And that gets your agenda on the website for Thursday.
Okay, thank you very much. Deborah, please, go ahead.
Hi there. And mine is just, is it by noon on Tuesday or by 4 p.m. on Tuesday? And that's something specific that the public should know.
Okay, and I think Dennis has it, Paula has it. We're gonna bring it back when Dennis brings the policy, correct? Is that right? So that's a good question we will deliver, right, Dennis?
Absolutely. In fact, we can even reach out to Deborah and answer that offline.
Yep, good. Okay. So we are now seeing Paula, go ahead.
Okay,
need to
the
vote.
procedure bylaw number 593, 2021, section 12, number 2, the deadline for submissions by the public to the corporate officer of items for inclusion in the council agenda must be no later than noon on the Tuesday prior to the council meeting.
Okay,
And the section 3, the deadline for submissions by staff to the corporate officer of items for inclusion in the meeting must be no later than 12 noon on Tuesday. So that's for anyone wanting anything to appear on the agenda.
okay, good. Thank
Okay.
you. And so we're now coming back to council, the motion's on the floor, and seeing no further discussion, I'll look to call the question. All those in favor of the question?
Aye.
Okay, and it carries in the affirmative. Okay. Thank you very much. And official community plan review committee minutes, April 6th, 2022. So moved by Counselor
So moved.
Clark, thank you.
Yeah.
And seconded by Counselor
Drake.
Drake. Okay. And the motion is that the official community plan review committee minutes from the meeting held on April 6, 2022 be received for information. Council, discussion on that? Counselor Clark?
No, just a little reminder for everybody, please come watch the meetings, get involved, know what's going on. Yeah, so I just want to encourage everybody to come watch the meetings, not just the meetings, not just the open houses, but the meetings as well. So you follow throughout the committee's work. But if you don't have the time to come watch the meetings with us live, they're posted on the website. There's a special page about the OCP just on that website where you're going to find all the recordings, minutes, and agendas, and any information regarding the OCP. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And so that's on the floor appropriately moved. And we don't have any further speakers from council. We'll look out to the audience, see if we have any from the audience. I'm not seeing any. We'll return to council and I'll look to call the question. All those in favor? Aye. And I note it carries in the affirmative. So I would also note that it is 9 o'clock. And so we're going to take an 8-minute break. And we will be back at, that makes it we're at 8:57. I moved it a bit, but we'll be back 8 minutes from now. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet. Thank you.
That Tom or Elroy?
He wants to know where his friend Finn is.
Oh, poor Finny. Finny's not been very well the last couple of days.
Oh no.
Is that Finny? Is that Elroy or
That's Tommy.
Tommy?
Oh, look at
Tom.
Hunter. It's a dog party.
Hi, Hunter.
Hi, Hunter.
Oh my God. I'm sitting outside here. I don't know how much time we've got. I just had to put my battery was like 3%. I had to just run around and find an extension cord.
I closed the door and all he does all meeting is scratch the door so he can get in. But every time I let him in, he jumps on my table here and on my papers because he's little and he's very active.
We had the most incredible thunderstorm here today.
Really?
And did you see that video I took, Carolina? I took
I
a
saw
video.
it. Oh, look at the
here
kitty cat.
I'm sitting here outside.
Look at the cat.
Where,
oh, hi.
oh, look.
Hi,
Oh,
Sherry's
my
kitty.
goodness. So scary.
We should do a meeting. Bring your pets to the Zoom day.
Look, Dinesh. Sherry, show Dinesh your cat.
Oh, look at the kitty.
I'm with Dinesh in London. Look at the cat. Watch it. Look at it. Oh my God, it's angry cat. It's so cute.
Oh.
This is my mummy. She's not here. I have my mummy. Oh my God. Go inside. Oh my goodness. Anyways, I took a video at the corner here. It's a very busy corner. And the water wasn't draining and it was like splooching up like this. And I had no idea. I just took a video of this car and it's saying, and little did I know until after I looked at it, there was a cyclist going by at the same time. And the car went up like this and the cyclist is okay. The cyclist is it was the funniest thing when I went looking through the videos and I saw it's so funny.
So thanks, everybody, and we'll start up. And we are now at Dennis. Your report, please.
Okay, Your Worship.
Thank you.
So under the community charter, every municipality is required to produce an annual report. So as we've done in previous years, and the credit is due in large measure to Paula, has prepared our annual report. It was made available on our website last Friday, and it's also available at the village office. Under our notification requirements, it will be advertised in the Tri-City News on June 9th and 16th. It'll be available on our website. And also notification will go out through our resident email distribution list, pointing them to our website. And we'll also put a posting up at the mailboxes. This report will be on the June 20th council agenda, at which time council will consider the report along with any written submissions from the public or questions raised at the meeting. So this is just it for information of council and the public, Your Worship. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And that concludes your report, does it?
It is, thank you. Oh, Your Worship, did you want to, there's another item that just come up today that
Yes.
maybe Stuart could speak to. Might be a good time to do that now.
Yeah, can we fit that in as part of your report?
It can. I would call on Stuart to report to you on some wildlife activity at the waste and recycling depot.
Okay, thank you to the chair. I'd just like to do a little bit of a public notice, just because we have had problems all day today with bears at the ward. So we actually did lock all the containers except for one bin to try to, curtail it a little bit. And there were 3 bears on site, coming in on site, going into the bin B, and they wouldn't scare away. So we had all staff trying to deal with it all day long. We ended up eventually having to close the ward at about 3 p.m. I called the conservation officer, so the conservation officer is coming tomorrow morning, and unfortunately we'll be dealing with the situation through the conservation officer. But I just want you to know that we did post it on the email website, or the email to all the residents, and hopefully we can get the ward open again tomorrow. We'll see how it goes.
Thank you, Stuart. Is there a possibility for the email alerts? I think are good, and thank you for the work that you and staff did, but can we also get something up there that says bear activity? Because I think if people are coming and trying to put something in that bin and they miss something, or they go past a closed gate, we want to make sure as best we can we send that message out.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And I will be ordering a metal permanent sign tomorrow.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I still probably have to deal with or figure something else out as well, just because those bears have figured out how to open up those bins when they're closed. So
yeah. Okay, Councillor, thank you, Stuart, very much. I've got Councillor Clark and Councillor Wilder on this expanded Chief Administrative Officer's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Ross. So I understand the bears learn how to open the lids. Is there anything we can do on the green waste to secure the lids better? Because, if 3 bears already know how to open, perhaps we need a bin that's a bit more challenging to open. I don't want to see conservation officers being called every time they come into the dump, because they do this every year. And I understand this time, I guess, is a bit different, but if they're getting in to the green waste bins, well, then we got to do better to secure those. Thank you. And thank you for staff to try to, I got some pictures from residents today that were there, and the bears were all around. So it's a dangerous situation, but I think we should look into secure the green waste bin better, so the bears don't learn so easily to unlatch it and open and get into. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Wilder, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. As we all know, this is bear season. They're coming out, and we've got the juniors out or what have you. But I was at ward 2, maybe 3 times this week, between getting ready to go away on my vacation and getting rid of my own garbage and composting, as well as green waste. And every time I went up there, the bin was not closed. Somebody had been up there just before me and did not put the thing. So is it the bear unflipping? Is it the bear flipping it open? Or is it because a resident hasn't closed it? That's a real concern of mine, because I went up there and it's like, what the heck? And we have people that are supposed to be there watching it, and it wasn't being watched. And it was a real concern of mine. It's like, I come up there and it's like, there's no bear here. There was no bear there, but it's unlocked. It's left open. Super big concern. Is it the bear or is it the residents?
No, Lisa. I saw videos of the bear.
Whoa. Hang on, please. We're gonna
and that's fine. But it's probably, maybe it's both. I'm not sure, but all I know is residents are leaving it open as well.
Yeah. So let's do this piece. If we're gonna have discussions, please go through the chair. But secondarily, Lisa's point and your point that I think you were about to make is what's happening. So we have the benefit of Stuart, when it fits in, to go back, or someone on staff to take a look to see if we've got a problem with extremely bright bears or we also have a problem with people that, for whatever reason, are not shutting that bin, either properly or whatever. Okay? Councillor Clark, did you want to ask any questions or?
No, I just wanted to say that the bears did learn how to open the latch of the bin. I've seen videos from residents on it. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, we have anything further on that? Not seeing anything from the public, so thank you. And we will go on to number 8, bylaw, the Village of Belcarra Public Notice Bylaw number 602, 2022. So Councillor Drake, I think you were looking to move this, correct?
Yes, thank you. I would like to move it, and if I might, yeah, I'll comment after it's been seconded. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Drake moving and seconder from a councillor. Councillor Clark, so it's appropriately on the table for discussion. Councillor Drake, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted, for those who weren't at the participating in the last meeting or hadn't viewed it, I just want to be clear that the removal of posting notice at bus shelters, waste and recycling depot in the village is not because we will not be posting material there at both those sites. The reason I want it removed is I don't want anyone to argue that those things, if they were removed, indicated the council had failed or the municipality had failed to provide notice. I don't want us to be held responsible for notices that go up at bus spots where someone just takes them down. So we'll still do it. And that is, I'll just confirm that through our acting CAO if I can.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's still going to happen. But if they happen not to be there, that's not failure of the municipality to do formal notice. Thank you.
Okay, so it's on the table. Any other council, any other discussion on this? Not seeing anybody in the public that would like to comment. Oh, before we go to the public, Councillor Wilder, go ahead, please.
Good old unmute. Well, I wasn't thinking I was going to be in favor. It's the only reason I'm going to be in favor of this is because I've been away on vacation back east, and I'm getting notices of this here over the weekend. And staff isn't available to put these notices on the bus shelters or what have you over the weekends when a lot of this time happens too. And we can't hold them accountable for that. So we are a bear aware community, and we just have to be, and we just have to educate our residents that way. So thank you very much for letting me speak.
Okay, you're welcome. Dennis, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Your Worship. Something happened to my screen here and I've lost my my hand function. So just for the clarification for council and the public, the notification that we're talking about is where under the legislation, under the would be either Local Government Act or the Community Charter, depending on the issue, where legal notification is required. And that's what we're talking about here. Our public notification bylaw is for legal ads, legal notification requirements. So and we will still be posting it at the bus shelters and recycling. It's just that as the council has already, Councilor Drake has already noted, we don't want to be caught where somebody takes one down, all of a sudden that jeopardizes the legality of our posting. But it doesn't pertain to the more informal communication like bears and so forth. That kind of thing is going to go on as needed, and it's separate from this.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. And so this is in front of us. This is be amended by removing the following under 3 methods. So the posting of the notice at the bus shelters and waste and recycling depot in the village, and that the Village of Belcarra Public Notice Bylaw number 602, 2022 be read a second and third time as amended, correct? Okay, so any discussion on that from council? Not seeing any, or Counselor Clark, are you looking to discuss or, okay. So not seeing any from council, we'll go out to the audience. See if anybody there has anything to say. Not seeing anything, we'll return to council for further discussion and the vote. Any further discussion, council? Not seeing any, we'll look to call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I would note that it carries in the affirmative, the ayes carry it. Okay, so the Village of Belcarra 8.2. Election and assent voting bylaw moved by Counselor Clark and Counselor
Second.
Wilder. Thank you. That the Village of Belcarra election and assent voting bylaw number 601, 2022 be adopted. Any discussion by council? Not seeing any. Look to go to the audience. Anybody interested in making a comment in the audience? Not seeing any. One will return to council. Council, any further discussion? Okay, the motion is in front of us. Anybody need the motion read on council? No, I'll look to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I note that it carries in the affirmative. The ayes carry it. Okay, so we're now on correspondence and proclamations moved by Counselor Clark and Counselor Drake. That correspondence items 9.1 to 9.5 be received. Okay, and we'll look to any discussion on that by council? Seeing none. Any discussion by the audience? Seeing none, we'll return to council and we'll call the question on that they be received. All those in favor on council say aye. And I
Aye.
note that it carries in the affirmative and the ayes carry it. Okay, and we are on to action items. No items, information items. 9.1, 9.2. You'll note that it's full, it's available at the Village Hall. And 9.2, the What's a Climate Community Look Like, full report available at the Village Hall. And then on item number 9.3, I just want to note that Councillor Drake, on behalf of the village, attended the law enforcement torch run mayor invitation. I was in a separate event at the chamber, and Councillor Drake, thank you very much. I noticed that you came away with a requisite t-shirt and a very, very good cause. So thank you for representing our village. Did you want to say anything, Bruce?
Yeah, just briefly that this was the first time they've had this live, obviously given COVID circumstances. And it was good to see a number of people out there, and certainly the RCMP are putting their heart into this. So it was great to see, and good to see the people appearing in person to support such a worthy cause as the Special Olympics.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good. Thank you very much, Councillor Drake. Much appreciated. And you'll see 9.4 and 9.5. They are one's a Belcarra Housing Needs Assessment and one is from our school trustee. So we have number 10, new business. Anyone on council with new business? Councillor Drake.
Yes, further to the discussion we had earlier, I'm going to make one notice of motion because I don't think we want to tie ourselves up tonight any further on this. But that I'd like to move tonight that staff be requested to prepare an information document to be provided to those building new homes or considering major renovations to explain why in Belcarra it would be wise to sprinkle their building. This is the point that Ian raised earlier, and if I've got a seconder, I'll go on briefly.
I'll second. Is that a notice? Or?
Yeah, hang on a sec. You don't need a notice. You don't need a seconder for a notice, but thank you, Councillor Clark. So Bruce.
I'm sorry,
can-
no, I was probably confusing. This is a motion. I have a notice that will follow it. This is separate. This one is a motion.
Okay,
I'll
so we
second.
need a seconder. Go ahead, please.
I'll
Thank
second,
you,
yeah.
Councillor Clark. Okay. So let's make sure that Paula gets this. So Bruce, go over it carefully, just so we're clear and the audience is clear, please. Thank you.
Yes, and certainly if Paula wishes, I'm happy to send the text to her as well, but I move that staff be requested to prepare an information document to be provided to those building new homes or considering major renovations, explaining why in Belcarra it would be wise to sprinkle their building.
Okay, take a second, then Paul can read it back and make sure it's confirmed. Thank you.
Okay, through the chair. I think I missed a little bit, but just catch me up where I'm wrong. That staff be requested to prepare an information document to be provided to those building new homes or considering a major renovation. And I missed something in there to explain why it would be wise to sprinkler the building. So there was something.
You're very close, explaining why in Belcarra
Okay.
it would be wise to sprinkle their building.
Okay, one more time, sorry. That staff be requested to prepare an information document to be provided to those building new homes or considering a major renovation to explain why in Belcarra it would be wise to sprinkler the building.
Instead of to explain, it's just explaining.
Oh, okay.
Same effect, but my
Okay.
wording is explaining.
Yeah, got it. Okay,
Okay. Thank you. It's moved and seconded. It's open for discussion. Councillor Drake.
Yeah, just very briefly, this is the point that Ian raised earlier in the meeting. It was discussed previously, but I don't think we made it a formal motion. And I certainly don't fault staff on it. And and there's no urgency about this, obviously, we've been months, but it is something we should bring forward and we should provide just as information and a suggestion to new builders. Thank you.
Okay, good. Anybody else on council? Not seeing anybody on council, so we will go to the audience. And Deborah, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Hi there. That sounds like a wonderful motion. Should it not just say wise to install sprinkles? Like you say wise to sprinkle buildings. Most people would get that, but some people of different cultures might not get what it's saying. So
They might think a sparkly exterior would be what we were seeing.
something like that.
So I'm sorry, I'm be wise to install sprinklers. I'm happy to make that a friendly amendment if Councillor Clark is.
I'll
Okay.
definitely set.
Let's check. It's on the floor right now. So do we have anybody that's not giving unanimous consent on council? Not hearing that, so it's now accepted as an amendment, that part. Okay,
Thank you, and thank you, Deborah.
okay. Good. Okay, anybody else in the audience that wants to comment? Thank you for that, Deborah. Not seeing anybody, will return to council. And any further discussion, council, on this? And then you had something else coming up, I believe, Bruce. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Indicate.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the ayes carry. Sorry, a bit of a delayed reaction. Okay, and it carries in the affirmative. So we're now, Bruce, you indicated you had something else.
Well, it has to do with the issue that we missed and that had to do with ensuring safety of connecting sprinkler only application in the village. I say we've been around it many times. We haven't formally addressed it as a council. But I'm happy to, I'll bring something forward at the next meeting. And I'm happy to work with staff to get the wording right. So I'm not going to give you a notice of motion. I'll simply have a motion by the time we have our next meeting.
Okay, okay, good. That's great. And so we are now at public question period. So any questions in terms of first what happened during the meeting? And let me just. Okay, go ahead. Joe.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Councillor. And as it so happens, my comments are in reference to the comments that Councillor Drake just finished off with on how we dealt with Article 5.4 of the sprinkler issue. Now, if I'm out of order here, and I shouldn't be bringing this up, I will respectively hold my comments and expect a ruling of the chair on that. Well, let me say that for a start. But if I'm okay to speak on that process, I'm not on the decision, but on the process, then I'll proceed. But if I'm not, and that's inappropriate, I'll address it through another format at some other point. So your ruling on that.
Why don't you go ahead, because you're making comment and it's appropriate to make comment right now.
Thank you. So look, I want to say first and foremost, I've got nothing but respect for the opinions of all councillors on issues that may be sensitive and under point, whatever. Nothing but respect for them all. And I'm not a stickler for process. Let me say that, i.e., the fact that a motion was tabled under the rules I deal with burnos, that certainly would be the end of it. No discussion, motion to table dealt with, but we had a motion to table. The motion was amended. The motion that was tabled was not, the amendment was not acceptable to the councillor respectfully submitted who tabled it. He wanted C not left in the motion. Then we had this confusion going on. There was call for audience participation. It was happening so quick I couldn't get my hand up, and quite frankly, I was probably as confused as just about everybody seemed to be on a very important issue pertaining to the health and safety and the liabilities of our water system. Like, this has to be right. Now, I can put up with sticklers elsewhere, but we need to get this right. And whether it's a review of how that was processed, and with respect to the CAO who said, well, this was the process and it was in order to do it the way we did, I would have my doubts. And I respect whatever your views are on this. I can live with them no matter what they are. But let's get it right. And I don't think that we got that right on a matter, because, for instance, the councillor who, and I just give you the example, when you review the video, you'll see it, the councillor who moved to table it, all three, A, B, and C, and would not accept the removal of the 2 for 3, then voted in favor of C when it came back on its own. Now, that's a very confusing problem, in all due respect to Councillor Snell, and I can appreciate, where he was at on that. So look, I've said enough. Again, not a stickler, but I felt that was not really carried out in a process that seemed to me to be orderly and appropriate. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak on that issue.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Appreciate that, and appreciate the way you did it too. Thank you. We have Deborah. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I had to change locations. My battery is going low, so I don't know if I'll be able to stay on. I plugged in. I have 2 questions. My first question was regards to the mayor's report, and so I'm just curious, Mayor Ross, what types of items did you discuss with Rick Glumac to do with the village, and what kinds of projects or whatever?
I discussed 2 things. I discussed with him the move that seems to be going forward. I'm not sure about the progress in terms of the safety that's being put forward by council. And I asked him if council goes forward with that, is there a place that he thought there was some funding available?
Okay, that was the one thing. And what was the other thing?
The other thing was, I asked him the piece about, in terms of his knowledge of fire halls and his knowledge generally of places that had looked at doing things for employee housing, but on a very small scale. And he didn't have an idea on that. So
okay,
it was, yeah.
And now, as for the public meeting that was brought up to do with the water, Is that going to be something that's public, like people can attend? Or will it be Zoom? I've had so many people saying they really can't wait to get back into the hall, and we need to be able to get back into the hall. So I didn't hear that to do with that public meeting. Is it just a Zoom
Okay.
or is it a hybrid?
Sorry, which public? Oh, the public in terms of the meeting with the water?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so probably it would be appropriate for Dennis to speak on this.
Yes, your worship. Well, first of all, we have to schedule it. At this point in time, our council meetings are still virtual. At some point, we will look at, and it's again at the call of council. We have the facilities in place now in our chamber to facilitate hybrid meetings. So under that scenario, and a lot of places are moving in that direction, as opposed to totally open, they offer people the option of attending in person or virtually. So depending just how soon we organize the water system workshop, it'll either be virtual or hybrid.
Okay, thanks very much, Dennis. Sherry, go ahead, please.
Oh, hi. I understand tonight before this public meeting, there was an in-camera meeting. Can you tell me under what category the in-camera meeting was? I know you can't tell me the subject, but under which category was it?
We're going to go to Dennis. He has a responsibility.
Yes, your worship, that is under section 90 of the community charter, and it's subsection 1, and then under 1, it's subsection A and C. Personal information and labor relations. So
Okay, fine, thank you. The other question, well, not a question, but a comment. I hope very seriously, very soon, the village will start having in-house meetings. I think it's important that we get back to the hall. Thank you.
Yep. I'm in the hall right now with Paul. Only separate rooms. So hopefully that will occur at some point. Looking forward to it. Okay, thank you. Any further questions from the audience? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. I would thank people for their work and note that it is,
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
yeah, we do, but I just want to be able to talk about one thing connected with the hall. We came back a little late from the thing. We just wanted to let people, not to worry them or scare them, but there are, because it's bear season, there are bears around. So Paula looked outside the window where she's in the office section, and there were bears. So when you come up, please make sure if you're coming up to the village hall, remove any food from your car and just be bear aware, as Paul and I will be tonight when we go out. She's promised to escort me to my car. No, we'll do it together. So I wanted to fit that in a way just so that people aren't surprised if they do come up here. So thank you to everybody. And it is now 9:38 and moved by Councillor Clark.
Wilder.
Oh.
No, me.
Okay, I'm gonna look and I think I heard Councillor Clark and it was so close with Wilder. And for call the question that it be adjourned at 9:39. Thank you very much. All
Or
in favor?
12:39 my time.
All in
Aye.
favor? And I know
Aye.
that it carries. Thank you to everybody. And thank you
guys.
again. We've got a meeting.
Thank
It's
you.
done by 9:39. Thanks, everybody. Good night, Lisa. Late
Thanks.
Eastern timeline.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, take care,
Very late
everybody.
here.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.